This is Santos Saúl Álvarez Barragán, better known as Saúl Canelo Alvarez. Arguably one of the best boxers of our generation. Alvarez is a triple champion and has held several world championship titles, earning an estimated net worth of $34 million. We'll go into all that in a second, but whatever your opinion is on the guy, you can't deny this is an incredible achievement, especially considering he is still relatively young at 32 years old, with a career that is still very much on the rise.
Damas y caballeros de Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico, now the unified middleweight champion of the world, Saúl Canelo
Born on July 18, 1990, in the outskirts of Guadalajara, Mexico, he was the youngest of 8 children. Canelo, his nickname, is the Spanish word for cinnamon, which is often used to refer to redheads in his native Mexico. His red hair comes from his mother, Ana María.
El ser pelirrojo, eso pecosito, no sé, llamaba la atención. Toda la gente lo quería abrazar. Desde chiquito pues tiene ese carisma con la gente.
Most people loved Canelo's red hair, and yet that also attracted bullies.
No, pues sí, obviamente pues era el diferente del salón, ¿no? Siempre el pecoso, el pelirrojo, entonces en la carrilla siempre estaba ahí y por eso me peleaba mucho, ¿no? Porque pues siempre me colmaban la paciencia y tenía que pelearme, defenderme para que ya no me siguieran diciendo.
Luckily, the bullying didn't last too long, as he was born in a big boxing family and picked up the gloves himself after watching his older brother, Rigoberto, debut as a professional boxer.
Y la verdad, me nació el gusto por el boxeo por mi hermano más grande. Cuando lo vi debutar a profesional, se me iluminaron los ojos y ahí fue cuando dije, yo quiero ser, esto es lo que quiero ser en mi vida, quiero ser peleador y nadie me lo va a sacar de mi mente. De mi papá no le gustaba mucho la idea y no me dejaba al principio ir a entrenar, pero me le escapaba al final.
El talento, ya, lo traía. Él tenía 10 años de edad, pero yo le vi ese coraje, esa mirada, esa forma de tirar los golpes sin ni siquiera todavía tener ni la menor idea de lo que era boxear.
Y la gente nace con talento, nace para hacer algo. Mi hermano nació para guiarme al boxeo.
Canelo won a silver medal in the 2004 Mexican National Boxing Championships and then gold in 2005, before going pro at the tender age of 15. Keep in mind, being from a family of boxers meant that Canelo knew more about fighting than most kids his age. Like most younger siblings, he probably got into a lot of fights with his older brothers as well, and that surely contributed to hone his boxing skills.
Yeah, people think because you're the youngest, you know, you get beat up. You know, that's how I'm the second youngest, so I get a little taste of what he's.
They
and I'm
always
one
try
of 7.
to beat me and laugh at me and everything. I need to do something.
From the start, Alvarez was trained by father-son team consisting of Jose and Eddie Reynoso, who have a reputation for turning out winners.
Rigoberto, su hermano, lo trajo aquí y ya me dijo que si lo sí, tráigelo. Y dijo, yo sé que ustedes son buenos y quiero que lo hagan campeón mundial.
After all, their previous students included both featherweight Oscar Larios and whitelweight Javier Juaregui, who have managed to make powerful reputations for themselves through an impressive number of wins. Even to this day, Alvarez is still trained by the Reynosos, whose contributions to his success cannot be overstated.
I'm gonna be with my trainers all my life.
Now picture this, you're a 15-year-old with school to attend and homework to do. And if you stick to that, only God knows what job you might end up working at for the rest of your life once you grow older. On the other hand, you're a promising boxer, and maybe if you'd gamble on yourself and pursue this uncertain path as a boxer, your future could be much more rewarding and exciting. What would you do? Canelo picked up the second option and dropped out of high school to become a professional boxer in 2005, no more than 3 months after his 15th birthday.
Why did you drop out of school for boxing? Nunca me gustó la escuela. Nunca me gustó realmente. Siempre iba nomás por ir. Y cuando conocí el boxeo, cuando tenía 15 años, que debuté profesional a los 15 años, estaba en segundo de secundaria.
In part, this was because he had the talent to rise to the top, meaning that it made sense for him to focus on making the most of that talent. However, it should also be noted that he was having serious problems finding other amateurs to fight him because of how he tore through their ranks.
Nosotros teníamos la intención de que debutara a los 18 años, pero lo llevábamos a pelear en los amateurs cuando había funciones en algún otro gimnasio, ya le tenían miedo, ya no había rival. Le dije a un amigo mío que era entrenador, hey, le digo, ponle uno al Canelito. Era Canelito, porque estaba chiquito. Pues nomás tengo uno, fulano de tal, y le llevaba casi 20 kilos. Pues sí, el primer round y otro round, segundo round, y ya en el tercero se fue y pum, 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 se lo acabó. Y le dije, hey, Saúl, le digo, ya vas a debutar como profesional.
Going pro at age 15 isn't unheard of, but it's not very common either. So many of Alvarez's first opponents were significantly older than him.
What was the age of the oldest fighter you knocked out when you were a kid?
Tenía como unos 30, 35 años. Y yo tenía 14 años.
How does that happen?
Nací para esto.
His first two professional fights were against Abraham Gonzalez and Pablo Alvarado, respectively, in 2005. He won both of those fights via a knockout. His third fight in January of 2006 was against the debuting Miguel Vasquez, a man who later became the IBF lightweight champion. Alvarez went on to defeat Vasquez, who was 3 years older than him, via a split decision. Before things get boring, let's fast forward a little. All you need to know really is that by the end of 2006, his total record was 7 wins, no losses, 1 draw and 6 knockouts. By the end of 2007, he had 15 wins and no losses. He would end 2008 with 23 wins, 0 losses and 1 draw. Even though Alvarez wasn't mainstream yet, he was becoming one of the brightest prospects in international boxing, engaging in a total of 34 professional matches before he had become a full-grown adult. In 2011, when he was 20 years old, Alvarez became the youngest person to win the super welterweight title. He did this by beating Matthew Hatton so decisively that he won every round on every card, with the single exception of the 7th round, in which he received a point deduction for striking after the bell. Alvarez dominated every single minute, if not every second, of the match. He managed to land 47% of his 626 punches, and he would defeat Hatton via unanimous decision, winning a major WBC title for the first time in his career.
Damas y caballeros, Saúl Canelo
That was the pivotal moment that turned Alvarez into a headliner. He would retain his title against Ryan Rhodes in his following fight, knocking him out. He would headline 2 more fights against Alfonso Gomez and Kermit Citron, knocking both of them out and retaining his title. In 2012, it was reported in various Mexican media outlets that one of Canelo's brothers, Victor Álvarez Barragán, was accused of killing an 18-year-old named Enrique Gama Partida.
La justicia de Jalisco pide la cabeza del hermano del Canelo Álvarez. Ya son demasiados los testigos que aseguran que Víctor El Paleta es culpable de asesinato.
I believe in 2012, one of your brothers was accused of murder. How did you handle that?
Fue muy difícil porque la figura pública pues soy yo, ¿no? Siempre trato de decirle a mis hermanos, hey, cuando me dicen te quiero mucho, sí, está bien que me quieras mucho. Si me quieres, no hagas pendejadas, porque el que van a salir por delante, el que se va a ver afectado voy a ser yo. Para mí fue muy difícil ese momento cuando lo acusaban, que obviamente no comprobamos que no era verdad, pero imagínate que tu hermano lo acusen de que mató a alguien.
How did you guys get through it at the time?
Como siempre, para adelante y le dije a mi hermano, siempre estás en lugares que no debes de estar. Preocúpate por estar bien, cabrón, con tu familia. Mi hermano ahorita ya no toma, ya no anda tanto de fiesta. Eso creo que las cosas pasan por algo siempre.
Around this time, a rivalry between Alvarez and Floyd Mayweather started to brew. Both men were some of the most high-profile boxers in the sport, and although Mayweather was obviously a much bigger deal, Alvarez had his sights set on taking over the throne from him. But before he could compete with Mayweather, he still had to prove himself.
Me gustan los retos. Quiero estar satisfecho también yo mismo con mi carrera, con lo que yo estoy haciendo. Y me gustan este tipo de retos, ¿no? Y brindarle a la afición buenas peleas, que la afición del boxeo y mis fans disfruten de grandes peleas y más que nada estar satisfecho yo mismo con la carrera que estoy haciendo.
His biggest match to date would be up against Austin Trout, where Alvarez would defend the WBC light middleweight title.
Austin, no doubt, Trout!
Trout would defend the WVA light middleweight title.
Introducing Saúl Canelo Alvarez.
And both men would compete for the vacant The Ring title. Keep in mind that Rigoberto, the brother who initiated Canelo to boxing, had famously lost the WBA title to Trout, and in the family's hometown of Guadalajara of all places. This match was a personal vendetta for the Alvarez family. And while some critics speculated that Canelo wasn't ready for a veteran opponent like Trout, they didn't realize just how personal this bout was to him.
56th round as a pro, Trout who just went downstairs with the straight left to the body like we saw him do many times against...
The fighters stood toe-to-toe for much of the bout, both unwilling to tie up the other at the expense of possible power punches. Trout was the more active fighter, connecting on 154 of 769 punches compared to 124 of 431, but Alvarez landed 43% of his power punches compared to 27% for Trout.
12-round distance fight. We're going to the judges' scorecards here in Texas.
El orgullo de Guadalajara, Saúl Canelo Álvarez.
We trained hard for him. We didn't overlook him at all. He had better head movement and footwork than we thought. You know, I guess you could say that was underestimated. But, you know, we took him very serious.
Yeah. With that win, Alvarez had finally earned himself a shot against Mayweather.
They said, Mayweather, you know you're facing Canelo. I said, yeah, but can you just tell me 10 world champions that he beat? Just 10. That's all I ask. Just 10. Then I say, you know what? I've been sitting on the top of the throne for 17 years.
The atmosphere for this fight was pretty intense, and with both men being undefeated, many people thought that Alvarez would be the one to finally defeat the best ever.
But I'm a little concerned. Canelo's a bad boy, Skip. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's younger, he's hungry.
Al sonoro rugir del cañón.
Billed as the fight of the century in some circles, it became apparent early on that Alvarez wasn't quite ready for a fighter of Mayweather's magnitude. Wearing the colors of his home in Mexico, Canelo was spirited in the ring but was unable to execute well enough to come away with a shocking victory.
Will youth and power be served, or will Mayweather's boxing IQ, which is at a Mensa level, be used to teach another painful lesson in the art of boxing?
As with most Mayweather bouts, both fighters spent much of the opening 3 minutes trying to feel each other out. Mayweather came out surprisingly aggressive, as if he was trying to make a statement.
Right hand by Mayweather, standing toe-to-toe.
He managed to land 46% of his 505 punches. He controlled the pacing, landed more solid jab combinations, and goaded his opponent into flailing punches. Alvarez would only land 22% of his 526 punches thrown. To put it simply, Mayweather put on an absolute clinic. He struck continuous jab combinations to the head of his opponent, mixing in great counter punches to the body.
And there's a right hand to the body by Mayweather.
There weren't any knockdowns in the bout, but round 7 was as close as we got.
Jab to the body. Look at
Standing on the ropes, Mayweather pummeled Alvarez with jabs and hooks. After 12 rounds, Mayweather would ultimately win by unanimous decision, giving Alvarez his first loss.
Fue muy triste, ¿no? Me dolió muchísimo porque quería ganarle y ser el mejor, pero yo siempre digo, Dios sabe siempre por qué hace las cosas. A lo mejor en ese momento, si yo hubiera ganado, imagínate toda la fama y todo el dinero que se me hubiera venido. No lo iba a saber controlar, me iba a volver loco. Yo no tenía, para empezar, la experiencia, la madurez. No era el peleador que soy hoy. Muy diferente, pero para mí, ese momento me dolió mucho. Después pensé, esto no voy a dejar que esto mate mis sueños.
As a result, Alvarez also lost both of the championship titles that he had been holding on to at the time, which must have come as an unexpected and unpleasant outcome.
Y nos sentíamos tristes, ¿sabes por qué? Porque se podría decir, le fallamos a un país, le fallamos a México. México tenía toda la esperanza de que Saúl le ganara a Mayweather. Y Saúl tenía toda la confianza de ganarle para ese triunfo, dedicárselo a México.
On the plus side, the match earned a record-breaking $150 million, meaning that Alvarez received a guaranteed $12.5 million as well as a respectable share of the $2.2 million in proceeds from pay-per-view. This loss didn't really lead to any sort of downfall that some people were predicting or hoping even.
Siempre he sido una persona de mentalidad muy fuerte. Digan lo que digan, no me causa mucho impacto. Siempre la gente que te critica es por envidia, porque quiere estar en el lugar que tú estás.
Because he had already seen so much success, it's easy to forget that Alvarez was only 23 years old when he faced off against Mayweather, who was in his 30s and at the peak of his career.
Esa pelea le enseñó a seguir trabajando y seguir para adelante. Y Saúl no ha perdido nunca y pierde esa noche el invicto. Muchos peleadores dicen, no, ya no sirvo. Se echan a perder, ya se rinden. Nosotros no puedes quedarte ahí pensando o llorando una derrota, ¿no? Solo el que no pelea, no pierde, pero nunca va a ganar.
Following his first loss, Alvarez would go on to win 3 fights in a row against high-profile boxers like Alfredo Angulo, Erislandy Lara, and James Kirkland.
Lo negativo, fíjate que lo negativo es muy bueno, porque cuando una persona como nosotros agarra lo negativo, lo haces positivo. ¿Cuál es lo positivo? Que lo negativo te hace entrenar más fuerte, te hace dedicarte más al 100%. ¿Para qué? Para demostrar que estaban equivocados.
He would finally get another chance to headline a fight when he faced off against Miguel Cotto for the ring title and the vacant WBC middleweight title. The fight would eventually be named Ring Magazine's Fight of the Year in 2015.
Unanimous decision. New middleweight champion of the world, Saúl Canelo Álvarez.
He tenido muchos momentos muy grandes en el boxeo. Uno de ellos, sin duda, que marcó mi carrera, o a lo mejor una segunda etapa en mi carrera, fue con Miguel Ángel Cotto, un puertorriqueño. Para mí era uno de mis ídolos cuando yo empezaba. y creo que marcó mucho mi carrera boxística.
In his first fight of 2016, he faced off against Amir Khan and successfully defended his titles, winning in the 6th round via knockout.
Canelo is a superstar in the game of boxing, and I don't regret anything. It was a great fight to be involved in.
Alvarez would also win the WBO light middleweight championship by knocking out Liam Smith later that same year. Alvarez would swing around different weight classes and would pretty much dominate every weight class he was in from this point forward. In September of 2017, Alvarez would face off against Gennady Golovkin in a winner-takes-all fight for the WBA Super, WBC, and IBF middleweight titles. The fight took place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas in front of a sold-out crowd of over 22,000 fans that achieved the 3rd highest gate in boxing history, surpassing Alvarez's fight with Floyd Mayweather. It also drew 1.3 million domestic pay-per-view buys, as the boxing world waited to see a clash between the indestructible force of Golovkin and the boxing brilliance of Alvarez.
These guys know the history of the sport. They want to follow in that line of succession. And here we go.
Golovkin was widely recognized as a top 3 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, with a pristine record of 37-0, with 33 wins coming by way of knockout. With clinical ruthlessness, Golovkin had shredded the ambitions of all his previous opponents, among them Matthew McLean, Martin Murray, and Kell Brook. So this was going to be a true 50-50 fight between two of the best in the world that fans had been anticipating for quite some time. The fight lived up to the hype and was both an entertaining battle and incredibly close. However, fans were left unsatisfied with the split draw. Judge Dave Moretti scored the fight 115-113 for Golovkin, while Don Trella saw it even at 114-114. The third judge, Adelaide Bird, had a scorecard in favor of Alvarez by an inexplicably wide margin of 118-110. It's hard to explain the rationale behind Bird's wide scorecard in favor of Canelo.
I thought Triple G won it going away, though. I really thought he won.
Me too.
I think a lot of people did.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought that was a poor draw.
Many considered this a robbery for Golovkin, and some started to question Alvarez's skills in the ring.
Boxing judges, they're crooked. MMA's nowhere near as bad.
When two of the three judges have it for one fighter and the other judge has it for another fighter, and the margins are wide, what does that say about that fight?
It says to me that sometimes the judges are looking at different things.
Immediately after the controversial ending, talks began for a rematch between Alvarez and Golovkin. Unfortunately, the fate of the rematch was put in jeopardy in March of 2018 when Alvarez failed 2 random urine tests for the banned substance clenbuterol.
Canelo. Steroids. Y'all don't talk about that. So we don't know. We really don't know all the fighters he beat. And he was he could have been not clean in a lot of fights.
Canelo claimed this was the result of eating too much meat.
Lo cual es una medida muy baja y esto es consistente con los reportes cuando son contaminaciones por medio de alimentación, por medio de carne.
Tuve unos meses muy difíciles porque me acusaron de algo que dicen antidoping y no es doping. Y era un porcentaje muy bajo. Que la carne, toda la carne aquí tiene clenbuterol. Tú comes ahorita aquí un trozo de carne, vas y te haces la prueba y vas a traer clenbuterol, pero eso no es doping.
Alvarez was issued a 6-month suspension from the Nevada Athletic Commission.
That is a real fact, though, is that one particular substance he tested positive for exists in meat.
Clenbuterol, and also it's not like a straight steroid. It's guys use it to cut weight, stuff like that, and it's such a small trace amount, they're going to be fine.
So let's get this party started!
Let's meet the Warriors.
The rematch was ultimately scheduled to take place on September 15, 2018 at T-Mobile Arena.
This fight almost never happened. We were so close at one point in just smoothing everything out, and because there's so much that goes behind a fight of this magnitude, and in the last hour, I had to throw a Hail Mary and put this together. So we were extremely happy, and now that we're 2 days away.
Can you believe it's actually happening?
It's exciting, yeah. It's exciting.
The electricity, you can feel it.
This fight was much different to the first bout in terms of action.
I don't know who's winning this fight now, but
Alvarez, who was described by Golovkin's team as a runner, altered his style and became more aggressive.
wild swing in the midst, countered by Canelo.
The match went on for all 12 rounds.
There it goes again. Yep, another solid right hand.
And ended up with Alvarez winning by a majority decision. Being favored by judges Dave Moretti and Steve Weisfeld, both scoring the bout 115 to 113. The third judge, Glenn Fieldman, scored it 114 to 114.
114.
This is not really enough to prove that Alvarez is the better fighter overall, but he was certainly the better fighter that night. Alvarez earned an estimated $40 million for the fight, while Golovkin earned an estimated $30 million. Regardless of who was better, we doubt that either man was unhappy when they went home. Alvarez was now the WBA, WBC, and the ring middleweight champion.
Pero yo siempre en mi mente tenía, nomás tengo que ganar, nomás tengo que ganarle este nomás tengo que ganarle y tengo que... Y empezó como mi peor año y lo cerré como el mejor año.
You know, just first of all, just congrats Canelo. Today he's going back to home like a champion. I think he feel different options. I feel it's good, because my inside I feel I'm champion.
In October 2018, Alvarez announced that he would move up to the super middleweight division for the first time in his career to fight 31-year-old British boxer Rocky Fielding in December of that year. What is even more remarkable is that Canelo was dealing with something far worse behind the scenes after one of his brothers was abducted and held for ransom.
En el teléfono yo negocié negocié todo para que lo soltaran. 3 días negocié con los para que lo soltaran. 3 días. Y aparte tenía la pelea el sábado y 1000 entrevistas y todo y nunca nadie supo nada.
Did you have to involve the police?
No.
No?
Never. Because maybe they involved in that situation.
Did he end up being okay?
Thank God.
Yeah. Wow.
Reports indicated that the kidnappers chose that time because the boxer was in line for a lucrative match.
Are you ready?
Beyond saving his brother's life, the remarkable part is that Alvarez kept it under wraps and cruised to a convincing knockout win in the 3rd round against Fielding.
That was a headshot down the body, and that should do it.
It's over.
That is it.
It's over.
But the entire experience left a significant impact on Alvarez's comfort with living in Mexico.
Yo ya no estoy más aquí en México. ¿Por qué? Porque es demasiada inseguridad. Y para mí, para mi familia, mucho más.
In September 2019, Alvarez announced that he would move up 2 weight classes to challenge WBO light heavyweight title holder Sergey Kovalev. Alvarez would knock Sergey out in the 11th round of the fight, exceeding almost everyone's expectations.
He's caught him with the left hand and his balance lately, and the referee waves his justice.
Canelo, big respect to him. He makes history,
Alvarez was also the WBO light heavyweight champion, and the list of his achievements was only growing. In his following fight, he would move back to super middleweight, defeating Callum Smith via unanimous decision for the WBA, the ring, and vacant WBC super middleweight titles. He would retain all of his titles in his first fight of 2021 against Avni Yildirim. Following this, Alvarez would defeat the reigning WBO super middleweight champion Billy Joe Saunders, adding another title to his waist. His title hunt wouldn't end here, and in the following fight, he would face Caleb Plant to compete for the IBF super middleweight title.
first undisputed champion!
Alvarez is considered by many to be the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world. Having achieved almost everything he could in the super middleweight division, he's now set to soon face off against Dmitry Bivol for the WA light heavyweight title. Meanwhile, many fans and Golovkin himself are hoping for an Alvarez-Golovkin trilogy with a final rematch between the two.
Just ask him, I'm ready. Today I stay here, just please, guys. You know, just, if you want to look big drama show, please tell him.
I say, why not? Everybody wants that fight, right? Maybe a little late. Everybody still wants that fight, so why not?
Canelo has fought in a tremendous 59 professional bouts, winning 56, drawing 2, and losing just once.
Siempre soñé con lo mejor, siempre, ¿no? Pero nunca imaginé la magnitud de lo que venía. A mí nunca me han gustado las cámaras, nunca me ha gustado hacer entrevistas, nada. O sea, siempre he sido muy vergonzoso. O sea, lo que a mí me está pasando, me imaginé lo mejor, pero nunca me imaginé esto.
The crazy thing is that he is still only 32. In comparison, Floyd Mayweather was 36 when he gave Alvarez his only loss. It's going to be interesting to see where Alvarez's career goes from here.
Disfruto mucho, me divierto mucho peleando, entrenando y todo lo que es parte del boxeo. De verdad que estoy enamorado de esto y por eso lo hago, ¿no? Y más que nada por hacer historia y dejar un legado para México y para mi familia.